Welcome back to Divine Ethereal Beings. On this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about meeting people in the realms, some more of the energetic stuff that exists there that a lot of us either just think might be dreamlike, or we've had the dreams, or what deja vu actually kind of more is, or from our experiences of what deja vu might be more of. Because I do feel as though my experiences with deja vu, I usually have seen it in the realms, and then it actually happens in physical reality at some point in time. So this is going to be a little bit of a fun one, and if it goes in a little bit of a different direction, we'll definitely let you all know as we move through this. But for now, this is where we're going to start. Dayna, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. This kind of last time we talked about astral travel and we talked a little bit about being in the realms and trusting and having your guides there. And so this is kind of an extension of that. So when you're in the realms and maybe you feel like you're dreaming or astral traveling or you're meditating and you're in another space and you recognize it as being a different space, you're in the realms. And while you're in the realms, you can come across a multitude of other energies that present in a multitude of ways. This is like doing journey work with shamanism, right? And so, like, they could be animals, they could be guides, they could actually be other people who are also able to be in the capacity of being in the realms or astral traveling. There's just so many possibilities of what you can be interacting with. And it's real, like it legit is real. And there's nothing to be scared of because your guides are there, they're with you, and just remembering that your guides are there with you and that you're safe. So know where you want to go next.
Yeah, no, it's a fun, it gets to be a fun space to get to explore things on a different level. And actually what I'm showing right away is an experience I did have once. It was very, very vivid. It was probably one of the first times I got into like a heavier meditation by myself. I was super proud of myself just for even like drop it in like I did, right? But it was a really neat experience because I actually was kind of brought to, I used to picture myself on a beach a lot of the time when I was first getting into meditation because I love the beach and I like it to be warm, right? So it was a favorite place of mine to go to. But this time when I dropped in heavy enough, I knew that my guides were obviously with me. I'd been asking for them to stay with me, but it was really interesting because they said, there's a forest over here. We'd love for you to take a little stroll through this forest with us. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just kind of start walking through these trees, and it was amazing because it was as if you actually went for a walk outside here, right? But the difference was the fact that I could see the energy and the colors moving through the trees, the animals, the grasses, the wind. It was the most intriguing thing I think I ever saw. It's almost like you see something on like a movie, a fantasy fiction movie or something like that, right? And it was like I was in dumbfounded awe at first. I just sit there and I'm like, what? This is real? Like it was just the neatest thing. And what they were just showing was the simple connections that how energy actually exists on Earth, right? But being able to be in the realms, you see it a little bit differently. You're actually able to sometimes see more of those colors of the energetic movement of, the plants, the animals, and the trees, and everything else that was kind of there. And I remember watching this little fox. There was a fox and a rabbit, and the fox came across the little path I was on first and stopped in the path and looked at me. And as he kept moving, you could see like the colors and the energy waves coming off of him. It was very, very interesting. It was very neat. So that was probably one of my first experiences. I really remember anyway, that was very vivid, that I actually was intentionally being shown how the energy actually moves on planet Earth itself, in between everything. So it was very, very cool.
Yeah, that reminds me of my initial kind of experience where for 5 months I was blasted open and vibrating. And I would like that would be my experience while like I'm not being in meditation, but walking outside in a suburban neighborhood and like trees are floating and breathing and have an aura, the animals and the plants and the rocks. So like it really is like we are multidimensional and we access the realms. They are real. It is a thing. It is energetic, and it can happen really at any time. I know a lot of people sometimes get very like thrust into the realms or another experience, and they're like, oh my god, what's happening, right? Or it can be a bit jarring sometimes. And so if you're not understanding or haven't had experience to know what's going on, so that's what's generally going on, and you are safe and you can bring yourself kind of back into your comfort zone, if you will. And also, like Dayna said, it's so fun to play there. It's really a magical, fun space and place. And you will even, you can interact with other humans in that space. So, like, oftentimes you'll come across energetics that what I find is that most of the time, not all the time, but often I can discern if this energy is somebody who's also in physical body and human form, but I don't necessarily know if they're like a human I know. And then other times I very much know a person well enough that when I come across their energy in the realms, I recognize them as their human form and I know who I'm interacting with. And so, like, I don't know if you want to share any bit of your experience or dream from last night where we can recognize each other in the realm.
Yeah, we were just talking about before we jump on the episode, as we normally do, but I was just telling Dana, oh, I finally remembered this dream I had last night with us. And it was extremely random. But it was interesting because, again, and now see, now they're showing me bits and parts of this that I wasn't remembering before. So breaking this down a little bit more, even from the dream aspect, obviously we're entering realms in dream aspect because dream state itself is one of the realms, of course. So I was dreaming and I was a little bit more aware in this dream, just meaning I knew I was sleeping and dreaming. But what they're showing me is in the moment where this dream kind of started, I remember looking over and I could see somebody standing like a little ways down the hall from me. I was in this building and I couldn't see Dana's face at first though. So I was just like, oh, there's somebody standing over there. And then as they're showing me this, because I wasn't remembering this earlier, I started to reach out and try to figure out whose energy that was. And then I instantly was like, oh, that's Dana's energy. And then as soon as I recognized her, it was like, bam, now we're in this dream together doing all this crazy stuff, right? And we did what we were supposed to do apparently, and that was that. And I moved on to the next dream and Dana was no longer with me in the next dream I had. But it was that recognition of like, I can't see the person, but I feel like that person's like somebody I know. And it's a little bit different, I find, too, when you have two intuitives like ourselves who are a lot more aware when we're also even sleeping and dreaming, because I mean, everybody's dreamt of people that we know or family members or whoever, but you'll notice often in a dream that if that person's not really aware of themselves in dream realm either, they just really do feel like they're part of your dream and coming from yourself. It's not like they're necessarily maybe in the dream with you, where this was a bit different, where I knew Dana was actually in my dream with me. It wasn't just me dreaming up Dana being in my dream. And so that was kind of interesting decisiveness, that if you can become aware enough in your dream or even think about it after and think about how it made you feel and ask your team for some help, they can help you decipher, was it actually just coming from my dreams, that it was just a memory or process of my own, or were we actually meeting in the realms to dream together in whatever capacity that was meant to be in. So it was
Yeah.
very, very interesting.
Well, and to just continue on that line, like in this particular instance, I didn't have any memory or awareness of this, even though it's quite normal that I do remember the work I do in the realms. I am very aware and I have like multitude of experience, but in this case, I don't remember any of that, but I'm 100% certain, like, oh yeah, that's true. We were doing that. Like, I just know versus like I've had lots of experience where like I dreamed about a person that's in my reality. So this was a past realtor that I had several realtors back. And this other person dreamed and I was in their dream. And they actually reached out to me the next day and were like, oh my gosh, da 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 da. They told this whole story of how we went hiking in the local foothills. We were gazing at the full moon, and like this whole perception of story of what we had done in the realms in the dream time. And they remembered it, and they wanted to know if I remembered it because they were trying to understand, was it just a dream? Did it actually happen? Right? All of that stuff. And I was like, no, we 100% were working together in the dreams. Now, I remembered a different story, if you will, but it correlated and we were definitely connected and working together in the realms in dream time. So that can happen too. Like both people can be conscious of what's going on. Both people can be conscious it's happening, but have different perceptions or stories of what occurred. Or, you know, one person may be aware and another person might not. Because I've had the flip of what you had with, like, I remember a person very specifically, and her and I were working in the realms. We had just spent some time together the day before, talking about a lot of all of the fun things. And that night, we very clearly had a mission and purpose that we were taking care of that was very serious in the dream time and in the realms. And she didn't remember any of it, but also knew, like me, like, oh, yeah, we did do that. Like,
Yeah. It's not saying everybody, yeah, you're not always going to necessarily remember, and that's okay, because being human, this is what we're intentionally being here to do, is grow and expand in human. We don't always have to understand all the bits and pieces going on behind the closed doors at night or sleeping, but it's kind of fun when you get to have a bit more of awareness about it, because I found for myself even that, yeah, and it makes me giggle about like your experience of how you had, I told you about my meditation piece, and then how you said that you experienced that in physical realm. We both have done this together when we were together in the summertime around that big, lovely, beautiful tree named Opa. Dayna and I were in the realms, and we had other people with us. And I remember they were just like letting us do our thing in the corner because we were really out there and they could tell. But it was amazing. It is amazing. But I'm going to tell you straight up, I promise you that you're not going crazy sometimes when you feel that either. Because I know a lot of people get a little freaked out of like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind now. Like, what is going on? This is a very different experience. So if it's happening to you in waking time and in a conscious state, it's okay. Breathe. Just ask if you're not comfortable with it, that they quit showing you those types of things. They are laughing because they're saying the veil is very thin in October. So just beware that if it is happening more in October, it's just likely because the veil is very thin. So it's easy for people to kind of flit in and out between realms and conscious 3D reality.
so they're bringing in something. So when we keep reiterating, you're safe, we're safe, and you can work with your guides. You can ask if you're feeling uncomfortable, you can request your guides, whether you're like know them by name or know for certain who they are or not, doesn't matter. You can still request and they will still assist, whether that's, whoever your guides are. So if you're not sure, you can ask archangels for assistance. You can ask whatever kind of higher vibrational beings that you associate with. This could be Jesus, it could be Buddha, it could be like, it doesn't matter. You can ask for that assistance and they will help you.
Sorry to interrupt you, or past loved ones. I do find some people are just more comfortable with interacting or knowing that your loved one is on the other side, so you can also ask them as well.
Right. And because you had a physical knowing of them, so yeah, you might have more trust with that. See, I don't have a lot of physical loved ones that have, other than my grandmother. So I go on a different, but that makes a lot of sense. So thank you. But so what wants to come through though is when you're dealing with highest vibrational beings and frequencies that are of the highest good, you can always simply ask that other energy or being to give you space. Like they will respect you and move away. Like
They
it
have
gets,
to. They have to respect you. That's a universal law. You ask to claim your space, they need to move back.
yeah. Yeah. And I guess I'm gonna share what I wasn't sure I'm gonna share. I I have this human, well, this energy showed up in front of my face the other night, and I didn't know what this energy was. I was trying to go to sleep, and it was very real and tangible. In fact, every time I start talking about this human, they're right here in that moment always. Um, and so I am very accustomed to asking my guides first to help me, and then asking my dragon to help me, then asking the archangels to help me. I might call in the masters, or I'll call in my star family. And so anyway, there was this energy that was very powerful and very sturdy and immovable and just in my bubble and in my space. And I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel threatened, but I felt uncomfortable as all heck. And so I went through my process of like asking the guides to remove this being or whatever this energy was. And I couldn't get a read on it, if it was human, not human, or what. So, anyway, bottom line is finally by the end of it, I said, look, clearly you're of the highest vibrational frequency, and this is of the highest good that you're here. However, you are making me crazy uncomfortable, and I'm requesting you to take a step back and give me some space. And then this being moved. And so, that works is my point. And that's always something that you can do as well, because like Dayna said, well, she didn't say it like this, but I'm going to say it like this. You are a divine sovereign being and you are in body and you are the operant power in these cases and scenarios. And so you really get to claim that. And, you know, and you get to, like, my point is asking for help, asking, using your throat and your voice and your frequency to ask for what you need, and they will respect it. Like, there's generally not a need to assert your own force and will to remove things. Not that you can't do that, it's not necessary. And so anyway, come to find out later, this is a human that will be coming into my life, and I am getting to know this energy in the realms first, before they come into my physical reality. So
Which is extremely helpful sometimes to allow us the space to move through whatever we need to move through so that person can actually come into our life for whatever reason that might be. And they keep reminding me of this experience of meeting this angelic being that was connected to me. So I remember again being in a heavy meditative state one day, and again looking over, kind of similar to what the dream was, and seeing this figure of somebody kind of standing down the way from me. Well, the funny part was, is like every time I try to go up to this being or ask him to come closer, he wouldn't talk to me or tell me anything. He just like was standing there. And it was actually starting to drive me a little bit crazy because I'm like, is this another person? Like, who is this? What is this? I'm like, I don't understand. They're not saying anything to me. Like they're just standing there. And I think this probably happened about 4 times in 4 different meditations. And then one time I finally got to the point where I just started ignoring him because I was just like, whatever, this guy's not talking to me. He doesn't want to, like, I don't understand what's going on. Obviously, he's connected to me somehow. I just don't know what or why. And then one time I went back in meditation and they brought me to this bench on the beach. And usually there's no bench on the beach when I would go to the beach, right? And I was like, oh, I'm going to go sit on the bench. It was just like one of those invitation things. And I sat down on the bench and I look over in an instant, there is this angelic being sitting next to me. And I knew it was the same being that had been standing on the beach how many times in a row now, right? Turns out this angelic being has been with me since the time I have come into this lifetime. He is on a very, very high frequency. So in which why there was certain times when I was trying to connect with him, he didn't really want to connect with me yet because he wanted me to get used to him before he would actually fully connect with me. So he finally did connect and came and sat down on this bench with me. Well, then I got excited because I'm like, oh, finally, it's about time this being came over here. And it was kind of a laugh, and my guides are somewhat giggling at me as this is going on as well too, because my personality, I get so excited sometimes in these situations. And this is angelic being, he just smiled at me and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I've always been with you. Don't ever forget that I'm here. And that was it. He just disappeared after that. And I was like, that was all? I mean, that was the work up to that. And then after that, I started to realize that this was the angelic being, like, and I know even from our session and stuff that we had earlier with the astrology stuff, how she said to me that there's been this angelic being that's always been connected to you. I didn't click in and realized that was actually him until after that. And then I finally was able to pull him to a meditation, and he was just showing me that he's been my protector for this lifetime and stuff like that. So in a way, it's like guides can show up that same kind of way. If you're wanting to meet guides in the realms like that, it's an easier way of doing so. You might have to be a little bit patient. Don't be like me and go in 4 times and be like, what is with you? Why are you standing down the beach? Why won't you come talk to me? Sometimes it takes a little bit of patience because we have to be in a certain state of being to connect with them, right? And by the time that actually happened for me, I was calm, quiet, and collected and being patient in that moment when he actually showed up on the bench. So, it sometimes happens like that, but it's an interesting place to meet your guides or see your loved ones as well. What they keep bringing up to me is sometimes it's really helpful to go into a meditation if you're missing a loved one. Again, you remembering you might not see them full on as what they used to be here in the physical form, because it takes a lot for them to project up to that point and show themselves. But you may see, their top half of them, and it just might be like they're wearing darker colored clothes or something on the bottom, so you can't fully always see them. But take a little bit of time and do that for yourself. If you wish to meet up with your family members that have passed away, do it in the realms. They love it when we come to the realms to meet them there, because it's easier for them as well to connect. So it's a very beautiful place. It's a calm, blissful, peaceful place that's safe when you're there with your guides and just want to enjoy and see and explore what else might be out there for you.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
anything else to add to realms? I don't. See, I'm starting to get a little bit of the pull to the possible portals here now.
Oh, okay. I don't, no, I don't have anything about the realms. I was going back to how we were just talking about my physical body resistance that happens when they try
Yes,
and,
let's talk about that.
okay, okay, go for it.
Okay, so we were again talking a little bit earlier just before we jumped on to do this episode, and Dayna was telling me that so I was kind of connecting with this Palladian, and she's all of a sudden saying to me how she's getting like this resistance almost in her body, and like this vice grip is almost what you explained it as, right? And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting to me. And so we kind of started to explore that with her. And I said, oh, your body is resisting allowing beings or connection between myself, this Palladian, and Dayna. And there was this resistance happening in her body. So it's like her brain was pretty okay with it, but her body was like, whoa, I don't know. I don't know. This is a little scary. I'm not sure if we should go there. And like, so this resistance started happening and pulling and pushing in her body. And so, that's what happens too sometimes when there's something in the subconscious mind or in the body that's still lingering. Because we know Dayna is obviously totally okay with connecting, as we do all the time here, and, for what we do for our work. But it's this space where it was almost like, her guides were telling me to tell her it's okay, tell her to play with us a little bit more and let us come in closer, because there's this fear in the body that thinks something's just going to take over me, and that's not the case. I'm going to tell everybody straight up right now, nothing can just take you over without your permission, obviously. So, and even with your permission, it doesn't always happen the way people think it's going to happen. So in which they're just trying to get closer for Dayna to be able to stop reaching so far to pull in the information, and so it's just more free flowing. But it was this space that we started to realize, like, wow, that is actually her body resisting allowing, these beings or her own guides to come in closer.
Yeah, and I want to talk about more what that experience is for me
Yeah.
and why that experience is. So I think we've mentioned like my journey has been going like, oh, December of 2024 will be 10 years since, so we're almost on 10 full years since I had like really crazy experiences starting. And so for me, like it was like the right side of my head was in like a vice grip. My left eye was twitching. I felt like I had a divide down my head, and I felt this pressure on the right side of my cheek. And so it's very tangible for me of like, or like sometimes we hear ringing. Just before that, we had been talking about something, and very clearly on my left side, I'm like, I don't know what that ringing is, but we're talking about this topic and I'm getting all this ringing. And so Dana's like, oh, that feels like excitement, right? So for me, I realized that I have all these one, I have like a lot of gifts and I'm very sensitive, and I have all these very tangible physical things that happen that I haven't had clear interpretation on what they are or what they mean. And in my journey over these 10 years, there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there. It's not always intentional. We are in this process of uncovering truth and connecting, more and more. And so I'm holding um past connotations really about what these sensations and what these experiences are. And so that's really what it's from for me. Like we were also talking about, I used to get this experience where I felt like I was being sucked into the ground, like, and so just like I wish I knew along the way, like the ringing hasn't bothered me, like I've questioned it, like, oh, is that good, is that bad, is that what, like we want to assign a story, our brain wants to assign a story. And had I known over all of this time, like, oh, this is your guides wanting to get closer, or this is this, if I hadn't had all these well-meaning mentors and teachers planting these ideas and seeds, which to be fair, they probably got it from somebody else, this belief, right, about what this is or isn't, right? Like they'll talk a lot about like implants being removed, energetic implants, or we hear about etheric surgeries and all of these things, right? That it's like, I just want to acknowledge like it's okay and it can be hard to interpret and hard to know. And that's why we're here. That's why we're speaking into this. That's why we exist, for you to be able to be like, hey, I'm having this experience. Can you help me decipher what this is? And so I think it's really good information. Like that's the context behind this current conversation. And I don't know, Dayna, let's ask the guides, like, what is the discerning factor if people are having these experiences? How can they know, like, I'm having this physical, tangible pain or experience? Like, should I be concerned? Should I not? Like, do the guides have something to say more on that?
Right away they dropped in was ask us. So meaning like, if you're getting like that pain or something going on, simply quiet your mind, focus on what that is, and ask us, is this a resistance? And you'll feel the lightness or the heaviness come across your body usually, or it might intensify, the pain might intensify, as that might be your no, right? Or it could be a yes. Most of the time they're showing me if the pain's intensifying when you've asked that question, that's a yes. So it's like, yes, this is your own resistance. There's something inside of you that's blocking some kind of energy flow or movement through the body, whether that is your guys trying to come closer or your own intuitive or higher self trying to connect in a different way, right? They're also showing me because of the changes and shifts that are happening on Earth, they're big energetic waves, so up and down, up and down. So there will be parts of it that might not be anything like that. It might just be your body readjusting to the frequencies that are happening on Earth. But if you are trying to connect and now you all of a sudden do have these waves or these pain or something going on, instantly they say, not just ask us, but first check in. How are you feeling in that exact moment? And think about, did something just cross your brain that didn't feel very good? Because that also may have been a trigger for the body to have a reaction. So the guides are saying too, like for everybody, there's a couple simple things that you can do. One, ask, be ready to listen and receive. Two, if you are having a hard time with all the energy, ask for it all to be shut down. Get to know yourself again before ever trying to open up the door to something else. And that will also help to understand, is that actually something else? Is this my own block? Is this now coming from someone else that I am connecting with? Right. So hopefully those are maybe a couple of little tools that you can use to help kind of move through those different pieces as they arise for all of us. Even for myself, I've had my own moments where I'm like, holy Jesus, what is going on? I don't like this feeling. But instantly when I asked, it was vibrational set point on Earth, body readjusting, right? You just kind of got to go with the flow of it. It will go away, we promise. So
Yeah. And this is why, like, this is the exact reason why we have created the community that we've created. And so we've created that now. So we now have our membership community ready to launch. It's very affordable on a monthly basis, and you get access to us for Q&A. We can do it live. You can send us it not live, and then we can respond to it. We're also going to be offering once a month, like a reading. So if you're comfortable getting on in a group reading or a live reading situation, if you're not comfortable, you can be off camera. You don't have to have your name on screen. So we are accessible to help you navigate and clarify these experiences and things exactly.
Absolutely. And yes, we'll have our live 1 hour Q&A sessions every month. But again, like you said, if there's questions, you can drop them into that group. We're going to be building out that community to have those like-minded people and people having maybe similar experiences. So we're going to do our absolute best to help everybody where we can. And it'll be a wonderful place for you to hopefully be able to come with no judgment. We have no judgment. It's just a simple open door. We're just simply wanting people to feel better. We don't want anybody to be feeling crazy, just to help start giving some understanding where very well is needed for many. I know it's needed for many, even just for my own psychic readings lately. So we're super excited to start bringing people into this membership right away. We're going to be launching it right soon here. So very excited. Keep an eye all out for that, and come sign up and be with us.
Yeah. And, and again, the no judgment and like guidance on this stuff, but also like if you're just in fear around anything, like it's a great place to show up and ask whether it's about what's going on in the world, what's going on in your personal life, what's going on in the realms. Like we can help provide clarity and kind of stability in that space as well. So like just dropping all the reasons why we're doing this and why we're accessible. And we'll probably do this on related to every episode. Like here's a good example of why it would be could be beneficial for you. And you're not alone, and you're not going crazy. And yes, it is real. And yes, it's okay. And yes, you're human. And yes, you're multidimensional and all the things.
And I know it can be overwhelming, but that's also why we're here. One step at a time. But let's work through your fear so you can actually start breaking apart the things that no longer resonate with you from our programming as well, growing up and in society. So, it's all we're multi-dimensional beings, but this is also a multi-dimensional community. We want this to be of all sorts of different things. It doesn't just have to be spiritual. It can be, simple things as just emotion and life in general. It's all energy. So in which we can connect with all of that ourselves, and between, it doesn't even just have to be our own experience. That's part of why we're intuitives in this lifetime, is to be able to tap in with other people and help you understand more about yourself as well. So super excited. I think this is a wonderful time to end this episode. So we hope to see you guys soon, and hopefully some of you will be joining in our community sooner rather than later.